There was a gentleman there.
Sorry, Minister, before we continue, there's a car blocking all the other cars. JC113, if you could please move.
JC113, please.
If you own JC113, could you please move your car? Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Minister, sir, thank you very much for your delivery this morning. Oh, I'm sorry. Raffaele, head teacher, Veuto Primary. So this morning I have been comforted by the fact that you mentioned this salary increase is way long overdue. And also, you're mentioning that during the course of the year, the school year, some of the schools are being disadvantaged by teachers having to be sent somewhere else. I believe some of our schools, some of us are going to be retiring very soon, October, November. And through this new salary scale, I believe it's going to be only about 1 or 2 salaries we are going home again. Would it be possible if the government relooks at this from that point that you had mentioned this morning and allow these about to retire senior teachers to carry on till the end of December?
In fact, for us, the contracts now should actually not end in the middle of the year or middle of the term. So if they're 55, we've done it in other cases. So for example, if somebody is turning 55 in September, they really should finish till the end of the year. So the ministry needs to inform us of that. And that's the position we're going to take.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. That's very easy. It's an easy thing to do. Yeah. No, but I mean, from a very practical perspective, you have to serve till the end of the year. It just makes sense. Just in terms of the handover, it just makes a lot of sense. Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I'm Monica, and I teach at Nehru. I wish to speak on the ban, and that concerns primary teachers who are graduates. With due respect to secondary school teachers, as for the current ban, all graduates sits at 23,411. That's for secondary and primary. But for my contract, in comparison to the secondary school teacher, mine as of today, I sit at 25, whereof a secondary school teacher sits at 26. Just a clarification on that, sir. That's just my first question. Yes, yes. I teach in Nehru, where my ratio is 1:46. I'm a classroom teacher.
Sorry, was that a question, the second one? Your clarification?
Pardon?
I understood the first question. What was the second question?
I haven't gone to the second one, madam.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for your answer to my first.
Okay, so primary teachers have gone to Band E and secondary teachers have gone to Band F. Yes, that is correct.
The reason being?
The reason being, on those 10 factors that I explained, okay, secondary teachers come out on a higher band. When we evaluate the jobs, the secondary teachers come out on a higher band. It is partly because of the qualification requirement.
Aren't we all degree holders?
No. The requirement for a primary teacher is a diploma. The requirement for a secondary teacher is a degree. That's what the ministry have told us. We know that there are degree holders in primary and that there are degree holders in secondary. I explained quite clearly that the job evaluation separates the person from the job.
But I find that very ambiguous, because I studied for 3 years for my degree so that I can upgrade my students in the classroom.
Yes, and you will be recognised and go to higher steps through performance.
I obtained my degree in 2004. 12 years I've been in the race with the secondary school. We started off all together with a 23,411. But as of today, there's a difference in salary.
Yes, there is.
But would it be possible for you to review to that before
No.
I sign my contract?
No,
We
it won't
have-
be, but, sorry, Jane.
We have thoroughly reviewed and discussed with the ministry over a long period of time the actual qualification requirements and the duty requirements of the different positions. Okay? At the same time, trade teachers, for example, have gone up significantly. Now, we understand that this is hard for primary teachers, okay? Particularly those who have been in the system for some time. But this is a proper evaluation of the job. The jobs are different. We're not saying that one is more important than the other. Okay? Primary teaching is very important, and in fact, when you look at the bands, they do overlap, and that's in recognition of how much the jobs actually overlap. But the fact is that the qualification requirement in secondary is higher than the qualification requirement in primary.
Madam, I do hope that you can review that policy from a diploma to a degree for a primary school teacher.
If the ministry changed the qualification requirement for a primary school teacher to being a degree and said that every primary school teacher had to have a degree, that would change the evaluation. But that's what would have to change. Okay?
But I think the other point that Jane made, which is very important, is that, for example, in the performance management, performance-based assessment, so you will, from next year, once we have the performance assessment, because you may have a degree, you may perform better than other teachers, that gives you the ability to be able to get a higher pay rise within the band itself. So you got to look at the band in its entirety and your ability to move within the band also. So you can perform a lot better, should be recognized for that.
Thank you, sir. I thank Master Rafa for that question. I also noted that down. My next question, Miss Jane, you spoke on some of the factors. It's mostly on merit, but what about, do you not recognize experience? For experience? Because some of us, we have been teaching for 20, 22, 23, as has said, but a teacher who just graduated 4 years ago, we are sitting on the same scale. So will you not add one of those factors as experience? Is it part of your factors?
So,
Oh, I think so, it's also there.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I hope so in your next roadshow, we'll all have your hard copies, so we can go in line. The hard copies that's as shown on the screen. Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, it's like in a classroom without no textbook. Thank you, sir.
See, this is where you're missing the point. You're not coming with a new way of thinking. You're saying it's like coming to class book without a textbook, but now e-learning is in place. Many countries, so you should be going along with technology. We'll send you an email copy. When we send you an email copy, you don't just keep it for yourself, you can send it to everybody else too. Okay? Please, Jane, clarify that, because I think there's a misunderstanding. I'll get Jane to do that. There are two issues. These 10 points is about the assessment of the job. OMRS is a different issue when you actually go for the application. So I'll get Jane to explain to you, the distinction between these 10 factors regarding the assessment of the job. OMRS, when you apply for a job, that's a separate issue. And she'll explain that to you.
Thank you, sir. So, As we said, so experience is one of the factors, the experience that is required to undertake the work that is done in the job, attached to how the job is written, so the requirements of the job, not the person who is sitting in the job. Okay? And some jobs require more experience before you can even try and do them than other jobs. Okay? So you wouldn't expect a graduate teacher to walk into a principal or a head teacher position. They require more experience, and that's reflected in the evaluation of the job. Whether I personally hold 2 or 3 years experience and someone else holds 6 years of experience, that's assessed in the open merit system when you apply for the position. So when you apply for the position, perhaps an assistant head teacher or a head teacher position, that's when you say, it's not just that I have 6 years sitting in the job, that's seniority. You say, I have 6 years of experience, I have learnt new things in every year on my job, and this is how I apply them to this new job. That's how I use my experience to demonstrate how well I will do that new job. In the current job, so if I'm a primary teacher, a graduate, you're on the same band, yes. Okay? And in transition, you all went to the step where you got the maximum up to 15%. A new graduate next year will start on step 1. Okay? And then when their performance is assessed, as they demonstrate their experience, as they gain experience in the classroom, their performance assessment coupled with their experience will move them on to steps 2, 3, 4, etc. But it's not years of service, it's performance. So moving above step 4 in the bands, it's not just about serving another year, it is very much about demonstrating that your performance is improving, that you're using that experience to the benefit of your students.
If I can just give you an example. We have, for example, at the moment, to get admitted to the High Court of Fiji, you have to have a law degree and PDLP equivalent. But there are some lawyers who, for example, join the Solicitor General's office, they also have done a master's. But because they've gone off and done a master's doesn't mean that they pay will be the same, will be different to another lawyer who's just done the degree in the PDLP, because both of them are lawyers. It's not a requirement at the moment in Fiji to have a master's to get admitted to the High Court of Fiji. So if you've gone off and done something on your own, I mean, I remember once applying for a job a long time ago, and they told me, you too overqualified. We have too many, qualifications that's not relevant for the positions, even though everybody else did not have the same kind of qualification I had. They looked at other things. So we just have to understand that. But it may go towards you getting the job, but it's not necessarily the requirement for the job. Okay, if somebody here, this gentleman there, sorry.
Thank you, sir. Master Tony, AOG Primary School. So just want to seek clarification on all the determinant factors concerning Band G and Band H. Band G and Band H. Since we are teachers in Suba, most of us assistant head teachers, our scale fall on Band G. And as if you refer to Band H, for example, we are already a 6D head teacher. I'm already a 6D, confirmed 6D head teacher. Then now, I'm a confirmed 4A assistant head teacher at a 1B school. If you take a look at the salary scale, you will see that even though I'm a 4A, I'm a confirmed 6D head teacher, and a confirmed 4A assistant head teacher at a 1B school, my salary sits at 32,000, and a 6D head teacher sits at 34,000. So my question is, what are the determinant factors? We did it unfairly. as we serve in the 6D school for so many years, and we move up the ladder to 5A, 5B, 5D, then now 4A, then after the regularization, our salary sits at 32,000. Madam.
So let me clarify, you're an assistant head teacher? You're an assistant head teacher? Okay, so you're an assistant head teacher, correct?
Yeah, assistant head teacher 4A.
Yes.
Madam, I'm already a confirmed 6D head teacher.
That was your choice. I'm going to say that was your choice to move to an assistant head teacher.
Madam?
Just wait. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You asked me to explain the factors. Okay. All assistant head teachers are on the same band because we evaluated those 7 or 8 different assistant head teacher positions, and on these factors, the only difference that comes out in the scoring is the final one, the number of staff reporting. So things like complexity and scope, they affect the head teacher's score because the head teacher is the one who's actually responsible, but they don't affect the score for the assistant head teacher. So that's why all of the assistant head teachers and the vice principals in secondary, who will have the same complaint, I'm sure, are all on the same band. Now, the reality is, when you move from 29 different scales to 9, there has to be some collapsing together. What happened with the assistant head teachers, of course, is that you moved on to different steps. You're an assistant head teacher. You can't compare your pay to what a head teacher has moved to. Okay? Your position has been evaluated and you occupy the position. If you now want to go back and be a head teacher or move up and be a head teacher, all of the head teacher positions are above the assistant head teacher positions. Okay?
Madam.
Even the very small ones.
Madam, are you aware of the responsibility? I'm already a head teacher from a 6D school, which I'm responsible for only 2 staffs. The role is only 13 students. And now, I'm an assistant head teacher on a school which carries 1,100 roles.
Where you have a head teacher who is the person who is overall responsible. The head teacher that you're talking about in the very small school is the one that I said gets the higher score for scope and complexity because they are all in remote and rural areas. That's what the ministry told us. Is that not true? They are all in very remote areas. They have to rely on themselves. They have limited communication. You said you've been there. You know the complexity of being in one of those tiny schools. We also want to create incentives for people to go to those schools. The Minister has talked about how important it is that we get good people into all of our schools. This is an incentive. Go to one of those rural and remote schools at the higher band. We want you to.
Thank you, madam, thank you. But my concern is, are you aware of the difference of the scales?
Yes, absolutely.
I hope you are aware of that. And I hope that we will be treated fairly concerning this. Thank you very much.
There's a lady here. Right. So, ladies first.
I'm Miriama Yetsen Secondary. This question is directed to Jane. It's just on the classification of schools. I just have a question whether the support staff and special language teachers that are engaged in schools are also included in these numbers, or does it include only the teachers? And secondly, to the Honourable Minister, maybe it's got nothing to do with the contract, but it's just a working condition. As it is, I know term 3 is approaching and most would have applied for overseas leave. As it is, when we go for overseas leave, our salary ceases until we start. I feel we've been deprived, we would have been deprived of the 7 weeks salary until we begin, then we'll be reimbursed with all those. I'm just asking if there could be a way where we could change that system, at least give teachers what they are due during the 7 weeks, though they are spending their leave abroad. Thank you.
Okay, so I didn't write down your question to me. The question was whether support staff are considered in the numbers. The short answer is no, because when we discussed it with the ministry, they said that they were tied to the teacher numbers, so they wouldn't affect the overall banding of the school. Now, if that's not correct, then we will go back to the ministry and double check, because we said, would there be a different ratio? But they said no. They said basically this number of teachers would equal this number of ancillary staff, so they feel that it was factored in at that point. Okay. If that's not correct, because we have had some miscommunication, then we're happy to revisit that point with the ministry. Okay.
Do they actually, is there a requirement at the moment for you to seek permission to go overseas? Yes. Okay. All right. That's something that we can look at. Do you know, has it always been the case? Always been the case, is it? All right, that's something we can look at internally. It's not part of the contract, but I mean, I agree with you, unless you're planning to abscond. But no, it's something we can look at. Thank you.
Sorry to disturb, sir. Can the driver for EY831 please move your car? It's blocking the others. Thank you. EY831. Okay.
Thank you, sir, Honourable Minister, for coming down on us. I think it's the first time for most of us to see you in person, personally this morning. Thank you so much for that. We civil servants as teachers, we're so fortunate to have the salary skills that we have. But I'm originally from Lakaunrobe, teaching in a maritime school in Laos. I come there for the post as a confirmed 4C, and I've been teaching all my life in Honolulu. And just a request for deployment. If we could be deployed into like I'm deployed to a 6D school, but in Namosi. If that also could be considered for us coming to serve our primary, secondary students, if the ministry could see into that redeployment away from, from back into a remote school. Firstly, and secondly, about the maritime allowance that we have here. If you could elaborate more on that, and also we have sea-going allowance, and thank you for that. Most of the cases that we meet in rural, in maritime schools, there was a boat that we are going back into our schools. If you could have government vessels to take us back so that we could start on time. Thank you so much.
Okay. Jane, you want to talk about the allowances, please?
Only that they're under review. So we have started a review of the general orders, and we are actually reviewing all of those allowances. The ministry has been out talking with teachers and has been out in schools. I know that they went to the north 2 weeks ago, and I think the west last week, or the week before that, 3 weeks ago, asking about the allowances. So we're quite happy to also take submissions. So that email address that we had up before, if you have a particular view about these seagoing allowances, or the boarding allowances are the other ones that we're particularly looking at for teachers, you need to let us know in case that you don't get captured when the ministry comes out to talk to you. So they're currently under review with a view to making them fairer and clearer.
I mean, we had, I think it was 2 budgets ago, we had increased the allowances in particular in the, what you call the hard rural areas, and also the maritime areas, we had increased that. The point being, just to the head teacher at the back there, we really need to get some good teachers out into the remote and rural and maritime areas. Generally, when you go to the rural schools in the maritime areas, you don't find that level of, I suppose, heightened awareness about the teaching environment. So we want the teachers to be able to say, look, I want to go and teach in Lau or Kandavu or deep Naitasiri or whatever it is. We need that instruction. But it goes to your first question was about you want to be redeployed in non-rural areas. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's that's more of a sort of internal policy area. I can take that up, but please also just email it to us so we actually have it on record. Okay, thank you.